Hey guys, tonight we're going back to a time when the ticking of a clock didn't set the pace of life. Imagine yourself stepping into a Tudor kitchen, a warm, bustling room filled with the smells of roasting meats, boiling stews, and freshly baked bread. But here's the thing, there's no clock on the wall, no timer buzzing to signal the next task. Instead, everything moves in a rhythm guided by song. The beat of the cook's song marks the hours, the minutes, and the pacing of the tasks. Time here isn't measured by numbers or mechanical precision, it's measured by the cadence of the song and the motions of the cook. Now, before you get too comfy imagining yourself as a Tudor cook, be warned. You probably won't survive this without being covered in flour or nearly burning your fingers on an iron pot. But hey, if you're in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments so I can picture you in your own space as we travel back to the Tudor era. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you step into the kitchen of a grand Tudor home, there's a certain rhythm in the air. A quiet, consistent beat. It's not a clock you hear. It's a song. Cooking during the Tudor period wasn't governed by the precise seconds that our clocks demand of us today. Instead, cooks used songs to measure time. Songs that dictated everything from when to flip a roast to when to add spices into a pot. This was an era when time was fluid, governed not by mechanical gears but by the movements of hands and the sounds of voices. The songs were simple, often passed down from generation to generation, deeply embedded in the kitchen's daily routine. In a way, the cook's voice and the melody became the clock, counting down the minutes, guiding the rhythm of work. There was no need for a timepiece on the wall. The melody was all that was needed to determine whether the broth was simmering just right or whether the pie was still too raw. Imagine it now, mixing the rhythm of chopping vegetables with the gentle hum of an old kitchen tune. This was the unseen rhythm that kept Tudor kitchens running smoothly, a steady pulse that connected the practical with the poetic. Historians still argue whether this method of keeping time was universally accepted in all Tudor kitchens, or whether it was something more specific to regions or particular households. Was it a royal innovation, or simply the way every household operated, from the grand kitchens of the nobility to the modest homes of the common folk? What's clear is that this song-driven timekeeping wasn't just about the tasks. It was an entire cultural experience. The kitchen wasn't just a place for preparing food. It was a space where time was lived, where tasks were intertwined with melody, where every stir of the pot matched the beats of a centuries-old tune. As the kitchen pulses with the rhythmic sounds of work, it's not just the cooks who are involved in this symphony of timekeeping. The songs themselves played a much larger role than simply measuring minutes or hours. They marked the transitions of the day. The morning's light might still be creeping through the windows, casting long shadows, but the song has already begun. The meals of the Tudor era weren't just about food, they were a reflection of time, place, and season. With each song, the cook could mark when it was time to begin a task, whether it was the early morning preparation for a hearty breakfast or the afternoon slow roasting for dinner. The song was an unspoken calendar. There were no clumsy hourglasses or ticking watches. There was only the sound of the voice and the work that followed it. You can almost picture it now, can't you? A cook hums a simple tune as they gather the morning's ingredients. As the song speeds up, the pace of their actions does too. Chopping herbs, preparing meats, stoking the fire. And as the song slows, so does the cook's work, perhaps allowing time to pause and prepare for the evening feast. A true reflection of time as fluid, moving only with the pulse of song and the task at hand. The structure of the day could be divided by these songs. Songs in the morning were quick and brisk, matching the energy of preparation. As the day wore on, the pace slowed, with longer, more solemn songs marking the slow, drawn-out tasks of simmering stews or baking bread. One historian speculates that there were particular songs designed specifically for the process of baking, songs that would lengthen and deepen as the baker waited for the bread to rise, ensuring that the time was measured properly as the dough slowly turned into something delicious. Of course, not every song was used for every task. Some songs were reserved for specific parts of the day, dawn, noon, or dusk. The notion of time was rooted deeply in the rhythm of the kitchen, with certain tasks being dictated by the season, weather, and need. A fast-paced tune for summer might signal the quick preparation of lighter dishes, while a slower, melancholy tune could be a signal for a hearty stew in the winter, requiring hours of cooking over the fire. The Tudor cooks weren't just following their songs. They were following the natural flow of the world around them. Historians still argue whether this practice was more symbolic or practical. Some claim it was an essential part of managing a busy kitchen, while others suggest it was a cultural touchstone, deeply ingrained in everyday life to help bring structure to the otherwise chaotic kitchen. Either way, the songs made the kitchen an organic and rhythmic space, an interconnected part of the larger flow of time in the Tudor household. Imagine for a moment. The smell of roast meats fills the air, mingling with the rich, earthy notes of a song carried through the room. There is a sense of comfort in the repetition, of being tethered to the passing hours by a melody that guides the work. Each note, each verse, serves as both a measurement and a reminder of where you are in the day and of what comes next. Now, as the day stretches on and you find yourself surrounded by the hum of the kitchen, it becomes clear. These songs weren't just a backdrop for a busy day's work. No, they were deeply practical, designed to match the rhythms of specific tasks, like chopping vegetables or stirring the pot. The rhythm of the song gave the cook something to follow, something to ground them as they moved between the intense physical labor and the slow, delicate processes of simmering, roasting, and kneading. When a cook began chopping vegetables, for instance, they might sing a song with a fast, staccato rhythm to match the quick, sharp motions of the knife on the cutting board. The beat of the song dictated the speed with which they worked, ensuring that the food was prepared just right. It's fascinating, right? A song that kept the cook's movements in sync, guiding their hands to chop, slice, and prepare at the exact pace needed. In fact, many Tudor cooks relied on these rhythm-based songs to ensure the work was done with precision. The quicker the tempo, the faster the task. Simple as that. But not all tasks were quick or frantic. For more leisurely, repetitive tasks, like stirring a pot of stew over the fire, the song would slow. The rhythm might become drawn out, measured, almost meditative, allowing the cook to match their movements to the slow circling of the spoon. As the melody stretches, so does the time, giving the cook room to work patiently without rushing, matching the song's pacing with the gentle simmering of whatever dish was in the pot. Historians still debate the exact role of these songs in task completion. Were they truly an essential part of the process, or were they more of a cultural convenience? Some argue that without the melody, the timing of a dish could be easily thrown off, and the task would lose its structure. Others suggest that the song was an oral tradition, passed down through generations, with rhythm simply helping to focus the mind and pass the time during long, arduous cooking sessions. In either case, these songs were inseparable from the tasks at hand. They became shorthand for the cook, a way of marking time without relying on external devices like hourglasses or clocks. Think about it. How would you make sure your stew was simmering for the perfect amount of time without a timer? You'd rely on the rhythm, the steady flow of song that kept you grounded in the moment. And you'd probably end up humming along, without even realizing it, as the steady beat helped your hands move in perfect time with the task. The songs were also used to regulate the emotional pace of the work. Cooking, especially over long hours, could become tiring, monotonous, or even frustrating. The act of singing while you worked allowed the cook to keep their focus sharp, to give rhythm to what might otherwise feel like an endless, repetitious task. The melody became a tool for both time and mood regulation, keeping the cook's spirit as steady as the rhythm of the song. And if you thought that was quirky, there's more. Some records suggest that songs in the Tudor kitchen weren't just practical. They were also highly stylized. Certain songs had specific recipes tied to them, with verses or choruses that reference the dishes being prepared, adding a fun, almost magical quality to the work. Imagine singing about the exact steps involved in making a dish, how it was stirred, seasoned, and prepared as you worked. That song wasn't just helping you pass the time, it was reminding you of the traditions, the steps, and the cultural significance of what you were doing. So, as the day goes on, you realize that this isn't just about cooking. It's about living in time, feeling the rhythm of the day, and creating meals with a beat. The Tudor kitchen, so seemingly chaotic, was in fact perfectly synchronized, powered not by gears or cogs, but by song. As the day moves into the later hours, the songs in the Tudor kitchen take on a different role. One that's tied not just to tasks, but to a deeper understanding of time itself. With evening creeping in and the flickering fire casting long shadows across the stone floors, the songs transform. They aren't just about chopping, stirring, or kneading anymore. Now they help mark the transition between the day's work and the night's relaxation. The kitchen, which had been a flurry of activity, begins to quiet. The rhythm of the song slows, signaling the nearing end of the day's labor. This shift in the kitchen's rhythm was more than just a way of pacing. It was also a way of telling stories. Tudor cooks weren't just humming tunes. They were passing down tales through their songs. Every verse, every melody, carried with it a piece of the culture, the history, and the life of the time. Songs became vessels for memory, keeping alive the traditions and practices of past generations, while keeping the cooks connected to a world beyond the kitchen walls. In fact, these songs weren't always just about food. They were about life itself. As cooks moved between tasks, they'd sing about the changing seasons, the harvests, the feasts, and sometimes even the people they served. These weren't just songs to help you chop onions faster. They were songs about the seasons, about the earth's cycles, about the very essence of Tudor life. It's like a time capsule, hidden in a melody, passed down through the kitchen for generations. Historians still debate the true purpose of these songs. Were they primarily timekeeping tools, or were they something more? A way to preserve the cultural fabric of the time. Some suggest that the songs were meant to keep workers focused, a rhythmic way of ensuring they stayed productive as the day wore on. Others argue that these songs were an act of cultural storytelling, ensuring that the values, events, and knowledge of the time were passed down with each repetition of the tune. And it wasn't just the songs themselves that mattered, it was also the manner in which they were sung. The pace, the pitch, and the tone of the song all played into how the cook felt about the task at hand. A slower, more melancholic tune might accompany a meal for a grieving family, while an upbeat, fast-paced song could be reserved for a wedding feast, helping to bring life and energy to the cooking process. The emotional context of the song mattered as much as the task it was accompanying. There's a quirky, lesser-known fact about these kitchen songs. Some were said to have special magic attached to them. Cooks believed that if they sang certain songs while preparing meals, it would ensure the food turned out just right. It's almost as if they were treating their recipes like ancient spells, believing the right combination of song and ingredient would result in the perfect dish. Some historians even claim that songs were sometimes sung with the intent of warding off bad luck or ensuring a bountiful harvest. Was it superstition? Perhaps. But in a world where so much was uncertain, having a song to guide your work and protect your meal must have brought a certain comfort. In a way, these songs were both practical and mystical. They helped the cooks stay on track, but they also provided a deep sense of continuity. Through each note, a cook wasn't just preparing food for the day, they were participating in something ancient, a time-honored tradition passed down through the generations. The kitchen wasn't just a space for cooking, it was a space for connecting with history, with ancestors, and with the very pulse of the land. As the fire crackles low and the day winds down, the songs grow quieter. The melody that once filled the kitchen with energy and rhythm now becomes a soft lullaby. The work has slowed, the last dishes are being prepared, and the night stretches ahead, ready to begin. The rhythm of the Tudor kitchen has shifted from the practical to the poetic, and as you step away from the hearth, you realize that time, at least in this world, was never just measured by the ticking of a clock. It was measured by the pulse of the song and by the hands that move to its beat. As the night settles in and the kitchen grows quieter, you can almost hear the hum of the day's labor fading away. But something remains, something deep in the rhythm of those songs, carried by the cooks. Time, as it was understood in the Tudor kitchen, wasn't just about completing tasks. It was about creating a connection to something larger. The pace of the song didn't just guide the cook's hands, it connected them to the cyclical passage of the seasons, to the traditions of their ancestors, and to the royal or noble families they served. The rhythm in the kitchen wasn't isolated, it was part of a wider, ever-moving circle of life. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on what these songs really meant. Tudor cooks didn't just sing for the sake of timekeeping or efficiency. They sang because their work was sacred. They were feeding the people, yes, but they were also shaping the culture, telling stories, and preserving traditions. The songs served as a vessel for that deeper connection, carrying not just the rhythm of time, but the memory of the past, the joys, the struggles, the celebrations, and the losses. Historians still argue whether this deep connection to song was unique to the kitchen. Could this same principle of using song to mark time have applied to other crafts or spaces in Tudor life? Perhaps the blacksmith, the weaver, or the farmer all had their own songs, their own rhythms that dictated the pace of their work. But what's clear is that the Tudor kitchen was a place where time wasn't simply counted in hours. It was felt, lived, and celebrated with every stir of the pot. And what about the cooks themselves? They were more than just workers. They were the heartbeat of the Tudor household. The ones who knew how to balance time and tradition, rhythm and practicality. It's said that a good cook was able to gauge not just the texture of a dough or the doneness of a roast, but also the exact moment when the song should change, slowing for a simmer or quickening for a roast. In this way, the cook's skill was about more than culinary expertise. It was about reading the moment, the ingredients, and the pace of life around them. A quirky tidbit to consider. Some cooks were said to have memorized hundreds of songs, each for different tasks. It's almost like they had a songbook in their heads, ready to pull out the right melody for whatever dish needed to be made. Imagine carrying all that knowledge in your head, not just recipes, but also the songs that governed when to add the salt or when the pie should come out of the oven. In fact, these songs were so integral to Tudor life that some historians claim they were often sung in times of great joy, too. They weren't reserved only for the mundane tasks of cooking. At feasts and banquets, you might hear the same melodies used in the kitchen, now turned into celebratory tunes that echoed through grand halls. The line between work and celebration was fluid, and music was the thread that held both worlds together. But as we know, nothing stays the same forever. The Tudor era eventually gave way to new technologies, new ways of organizing time, and of course, the rise of mechanical clocks. The idea of using songs to mark time began to fade into the background, replaced by more precise methods of keeping track of hours and minutes. Yet, even as mechanical clocks ticked their way into the world, something of the Tudor way of measuring time remained. In some kitchens, there are still echoes of the songs, the hum of a tune marking the start of a task, or a particular rhythm setting the pace of a meal. And as you sit back, imagining the songs fading from the firelight, you realize that time, in the end, is more than just a series of moments. It's the rhythm of life itself, carried on the breath of those who cook, sing, and share in the cycle of tradition. As the fire dies down and the last song fades into memory, the kitchen falls into a peaceful quiet. Time, in all its measured beauty, continues. You lean closer now, almost catching the echoes of debate swirling through the halls of academia, where historians still argue over just how precise these song-based timekeepers really were in the Tudor kitchen. Was the cook's song an accurate measure of minutes and hours, or more of a poetic approximation tied to mood and tradition? It's a question that continues to divide scholars, and it's a fascinating one to ponder as you imagine yourself pacing the uneven stone floor of a smoky kitchen, guided only by melody and intuition. On one hand, these songs could be surprisingly effective. Their rhythms match the tasks perfectly, the chopping of vegetables, the stirring of sauces, the kneading of dough. A consistent beat ensured that cooks didn't rush or dawdle, helping maintain a kitchen tempo that prevented food from burning or being undercooked. In this sense, the song was a practical tool, a living timer embedded in tradition. Yet on the other hand, the songs lacked the mechanical precision that clocks and hourglasses would eventually bring. The speed of a song could vary with the singer's mood or energy level, making it an imperfect tool for exact timekeeping. After all, the same song sung briskly could take half the time as the same tune hummed slowly. Some argue this looseness made the system unreliable for complex kitchens needing exact timing for multiple dishes simultaneously. Historians still debate whether this fluidity was a strength or a weakness. Was the flexible nature of song-based timekeeping adaptive, allowing cooks to adjust their pace naturally with the kitchen's flow? Or was it chaotic, causing dishes to come out inconsistently, leaving the head cook with a mess instead of a masterpiece? The truth might lie somewhere in the middle. A quirky detail: some Tudor kitchens reportedly kept informal songmasters or lead singers whose job was to keep the melody steady and everyone on task. It's a fascinating thought. Someone designated to regulate the kitchen's tempo by voice alone, like a conductor for pots and pans. While evidence is limited, it shows how seriously some took this musical timekeeping. Interestingly, the introduction of mechanical clocks in the Tudor period didn't instantly replace these musical methods. Instead, they coexisted, with clocks providing a broader framework of time while songs maintained the rhythm of specific tasks. This blend of old and new created a layered sense of time, both measured and lived, exact and fluid. So as you imagine the clash of these two worlds, song and clock, remember that timekeeping, like cooking itself, is as much art as it is science. The Tudor kitchen's musical rhythms may have lacked the tick-tock precision we take for granted today, but they brought a human heartbeat to every meal prepared. You lean into the atmosphere of the Tudor kitchen and notice it's not just the songs filling the air, it's the whole symphony of sounds that set the mood and inform the sense of time. The crackle of the fire, the clatter of pots and pans, the chopping of knives on wooden boards, all these noises combined with the songs to create a living soundtrack of the kitchen. It was sensory, immersive, and deeply tied to the flow of the day. The kitchen was a cacophony, yes, but also a carefully balanced orchestra. The sounds helped cooks gauge where they were in their tasks. The steady drip of a simmering stew, for example, was a natural timer, while the rising and falling of the fire's crackle indicated when heat was waning or intensifying. These ambient noises became cues, blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the songs to guide the cook's hands and heart. Imagine standing there, listening not just to the song, but to the harmony of the kitchen itself. Each sound, a pot clanging, a fire roaring, a spoon stirring, served as a marker of passing moments. The kitchen was alive, breathing time through its noises. It's like a meditation on sound and work, a dance of elements that created a sense of place and purpose. Historians still argue whether cooks consciously used these sounds as timers, or whether they simply became familiar markers over time. Some suggest the ambient noises functioned as an informal clock, with cooks learning to sense time by the pattern of sounds as much as the rhythm of their songs. Others think it was simply part of the background, comforting but not strictly functional. A quirky tidbit: certain kitchens had firekeepers whose sole job was to maintain the fire at a consistent burn, ensuring that the crackling sound remained steady, kind of like the kitchen's metronome. It's a small detail, but it highlights how crucial sound and rhythm were to timekeeping before clocks entered the scene. In fact, some recipes were passed down with instructions tied to sound. A cook might be told to stir until the fire crackles softer, or to bake until the pot sings. These poetic instructions might sound vague today, but in a world where time was measured by sound and song, they made perfect sense. The Tudor kitchen's soundscape was more than practical. It was atmospheric, setting the tone for work and the emotional climate of the household. Loud, rhythmic pounding might mean a bustling day of preparation, while softer, slower sounds suggested calm and contemplation. So, as you sit back and listen to the imagined hum of the Tudor kitchen, remember that time there was not just seen but heard. Woven into the very fabric of the space, felt in every clink, crackle, and note. The kitchen wasn't just a place to cook, it was a place where time danced on the edge of sound. The air in the Tudor kitchen thickens with anticipation as special occasions approach, and the songs shift to mark these moments with their own unique rhythms and significance. Feast days, holidays, and celebrations weren't just marked by lavish meals. They were heralded by songs that signaled a change in pace and purpose, weaving together the practical with the ceremonial. Imagine preparing for a royal feast where the kitchen buzzes with energy unlike any other day. The songs sung here are different, louder, more jubilant, filled with verses about bounty, celebration, and good fortune. These melodies tell the cooks exactly when to speed up, when to slow down, and when to pause and savor the moment. They're not just functional, they're infused with a spirit of festivity that lifts the entire kitchen. Historians still debate how standardized these songs were across different households. Were there universal tunes for feast preparation? Or did each kitchen develop its own set of celebratory songs? Some evidence suggests that court kitchens had their own specialized melodies, influenced by the tastes of monarchs and nobles. Others argue that regional kitchens passed down unique traditions, creating a rich tapestry of culinary music across Tudor England. A quirky detail: some of these feast preparation songs reportedly included coded instructions hidden within the lyrics, guiding the cooks through complex dishes that required precise timing and coordination. Think of it as an early form of recipe encryption, making sure only those in the know could interpret the secrets of the feast. It's a fascinating glimpse into how music and cooking intertwined in practical ways beyond just setting a tempo. Seasonality also played a role. Songs would change with the calendar, marking the arrival of new ingredients and the shift from one type of cuisine to another. The arrival of fresh game in autumn might inspire a hunting song sung over roasting venison, while spring brought lighter melodies to accompany fresh vegetables and herbs. The kitchen was not just responding to the clock, but to the rhythms of nature itself. And let's not forget the cooks themselves, who likely looked forward to these songs, knowing that they signaled a break from routine and the chance to prepare something extraordinary. These tunes may have been a source of pride and joy, connecting the labor of the kitchen to the grandeur of the feast. So as the fire roars higher and the song grows in volume, you find yourself swept up in a world where music and food are inseparable, where time is measured not by minutes, but by the length of a chorus, and where every note brings the promise of a feast to come. You feel the invisible thread pulling the kitchen into the larger world of Tudor court culture, where music wasn't just for the cooks. It was a reflection of the times, the monarchs, and the ever-shifting tapestry of power. The rhythms of the kitchen were deeply influenced by the music favored by the court, where composers and musicians shaped not just entertainment, but the very fabric of daily life. Courtly traditions and royal tastes seeped into the kitchen's songs, blending high culture with the earthy practicality of cooking. Monarchs like Henry VIII were known for their love of music, and it's no surprise that their preferences echoed down to the kitchen staff, whose melodies often mirrored the popular tunes played in the great halls. The kitchen was a space where the elevated and the everyday collided, and the songs captured that blend perfectly. Historians still debate the extent to which court music influenced kitchen songs. Did royal composers write specific pieces for the kitchens, or did cooks adapt popular melodies for their own use? Some suggest that the flow of music from court to kitchen was part of a larger cultural exchange, reflecting the interconnectedness of Tudor society. Others believe the kitchen had its own distinct musical traditions, parallel but separate from courtly music. One quirky detail: some Tudor kitchen songs were reportedly sung in the same keys or styles as the courtly ballads, but with altered lyrics that humorously referenced kitchen life, like a secret language that allowed cooks to poke fun at the upper classes while still honoring their tastes. Imagine that, a playful rebellion hidden in song, right under the noses of the nobility. The blending of courtly and kitchen music also reflected the social hierarchy and the flow of influence. Music that started in the grand halls would filter down to servants and cooks, while the rhythms of the kitchen might inspire new songs among the common folk. It was a dynamic exchange, a musical conversation across the ranks. And of course, this exchange wasn't one way. Some musicians from the lower classes found their way into court through their talent, bringing with them the sounds of the kitchen and the streets, influencing the evolution of Tudor music as a whole. The kitchen songs, humble as they might seem, were part of this rich cultural dialogue. So as you listen to the imagined blend of lutes, voices, and kitchen noises, remember that the songs weren't just tools. They were bridges. They connected cooks to kings, commoners to nobles, work to art, and past to present. The Tudor kitchen's music was a reflection of a society in motion, changing and growing with every note sung beside the fire. As the mechanical clocks began to tick their way into Tudor homes, the once dominant songs of the kitchen slowly began to fade, ushering in a new era of timekeeping that was less melodic but far more precise. The gradual shift from song to clock was not abrupt. It was a subtle transition, one that saw the old rhythms give way to the measured tick-tock of gears and hands. The presence of clocks introduced a new relationship with time. No longer was time something you felt or sang. It became something you watched, a steady visual pulse that dictated the pace of life with exactitude. For cooks, this meant less reliance on songs to measure minutes and more focus on the precise timing of dishes. Recipes began to include instructions like, bake for 20 minutes, or simmer for an hour, words that would have sounded strange in the earlier days of melody-driven kitchens. Historians still argue about how quickly clocks replaced songs in kitchens, and whether the musical methods lingered on in more rural or traditional households. Some suggest that clocks were initially luxury items, reserved for the wealthiest, while songs remained the practical method for most. Others believe that even in courtly kitchens, songs continued to provide rhythm and morale long after the arrival of timepieces. A quirky tidbit: early mechanical clocks were often inaccurate and prone to stopping, meaning that even as the Tudor kitchen embraced new technology, the old ways still held sway. Cooks might have glanced up at a clock only to return quickly to their trusted melodies when the mechanism failed. The coexistence of song and clock speaks to a fascinating blend of tradition and innovation. This transition also mirrors a broader cultural shift in how people understood and interacted with time. The mechanical clock represented control and measurement, an external authority over the fluid lived experience of time. The Tudor kitchen songs were a last echo of a world where time was a shared rhythm, something communal and human rather than strict and mechanized. As you imagine this change unfolding, you might picture an older cook humming a familiar tune beside a young apprentice who watches the clock anxiously, caught between the old and new worlds. It's a poignant moment, an intersection of history, music, and technology, with the kitchen as its stage. And so, the songs that once set the pace for chopping, stirring, and roasting quietly passed into memory, replaced by the steady ticking of clocks and the rise of modern timekeeping. Yet, their legacy remains. They remind us that time, no matter how measured or mechanical, has always been tied to the rhythms of human life, the songs we sing, the work we do, and the stories we share. Thank you for following the journey of how Tudor cooks measured time with songs. As you settle down tonight, may you carry with you the melody of a kitchen long gone but never forgotten, where time was a song and every beat mattered. Now, slow your breathing as we drift toward the wind down. The kitchen's warmth fades into a soft, comforting glow. The last echoes of song linger in the air like a gentle lullaby, wrapping you in the tender embrace of history. The crackling fire softens, and the steady tick of a clock hums quietly in the distance, a reminder of time's endless flow. You feel calm, connected to those who measured their days not by numbers but by melody, by rhythm, by heart. Let your thoughts float gently with the fading notes as you drift into a peaceful, restful sleep. Good night.